update. Identifying the South China Sea and the West Philippine Sea. China and the Philippines battle over disputed territories in South China Sea. China dispute over the West Philippine Sea. Philippines dispute Chinese maritime expansion of South China Sea. Philippines accuse Chinese Coast Guard firing water cannon and its boats in South China Sea. Philippine President slammed China latest flare-up in South China Sea.
News with no bias.
News with no exemptions.
Including nothing but the truth.
And this is the World Scope. The voice.
The agents.
The catalyst of Negros Oriental.
Broadcasting live at Negros Oriental State University, Main Campus 1. Here are your news anchors for today. Good morning Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. It's 10:30 in the morning, June 5, 2022. And I am Church Jane Cavalida.
Good morning, City of Gentle People. I am Maria Nieves Bascos. And you're watching the World Scope. Here's the rundown of the top stories at this hour.
Identifying the South China Sea and the West Philippine Sea.
China and the Philippines battle over disputed territories in South China Sea.
China disputed over the West Philippine Sea.
Philippines dispute China's maritime expansion at South China Sea.
Philippines accuses Chinese Coast Guard of firing water cannon at its boat in South China Sea.
Philippine President slams China for the latest flare-up in the South China Sea.
We will be right back with more news after some reminders.
Around 300 navies died due to the epic of war, and about 1 in 5 children, or 420 million, are living in front-leg zones. And this has 465 million people to flee from their countries. However, when you ask people, all they want is a peace. So how do we achieve world peace? Help build civil society.
Civil society engage and upgrading for public rights, building trust and shared values,
which transfer the political sphere and how to hold society together. Establish rule of law.
Established rule of law is important to attain peace.
By having a strong rule of law, governments gives business society the stability of knowing that all rights are respected and protected. Secure individual freedom.
Guarantee individual rights to gain freedom without interference
from the government or other individuals which research to create peace in one nation. Spark economic development.
increases the risk of a country falling into civil country.
Thus, making economic development faster can prevent conflict between one another. Separate religion and government.
Separate religion and government. It is important to separate religion from state to avoid because of the following reasons.
It is important for a country to function democratically. It is important to separate religion from the state to stop domination of one religion community over other. Secure freedom of thoughts and beliefs.
Freedom expression is a fundamental human rights.
Reinforces all other human rights, allowing society and countries to develop the progress, the ability to express our opinion, or speak freely is essential to bring change and peace in the world. Avoid human rights violations.
Avoid human rights violations. Human rights violations are the root cause of conflict.
Thus, avoiding it can be a big factor to achieve peace with truly
people living in this world. We need to raise awareness about our own room, our own voices, to fight against violence.
We
Want
To
Be
a part
of
peaceful
World.
Are you with us?
Time check you, it's 11:10 in the morning of June 5, 2022. Once again, you are watching The World Scope. We are back for the local news. Identifying the South China Sea and the West Philippine Sea. Figuration Danica Rose, please give us some details.
China has made plans to claim all maritime resources outside its boundaries, including those in Malaysia, Indonesia, and Australia, as well as those in the India and the Indian Ocean. It will carry out its plans with the help of the United Nations and its nuclear and military arsenals. Natural resources and people-to-people trade have long been abundant in the South China Sea. More than 5 trillion in global trade is anticipated to pass through the region each year, and explorations have uncovered significant natural gas and hydrocarbon deposits. China, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei, the Philippines, and Taiwan all claim territory in the enormous expanse of islands, rocks, and archipelagos that make up the sea, causing tensions that endanger peace and prosperity.
What is the dispute all about, and why is the South China Sea is important?
the sea disputes refer mainly to those over islands and reefs in the South China Sea, as well as adjacent waters. Claimants include China, Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei. There used to be no disputes in the area, but after World War II, countries began to occupy features in the waters. The prospect for oil and gas resources in the region led to claims in the 1970s.
What are your insights on how to resolve the West Philippine Sea or the South China Sea dispute?
Thought to resolve the problem, in my opinion, is for both parties to sit down and discuss, just the two of them, without the intervention of other countries. Before claiming the sea, allowing both Filipino and Chinese fishermen to fish. are dividing the sea, parts closer to China are China's and vice versa. Both the Philippines and China must agree on certain requirements. Another condition is that no country should deploy warships or anything else that could escalate the conflict. Both countries must work together to protect the resources that can be extracted from the sea. Finally, all issues must be resolved as much as possible without foreign intervention. And both China and Philippines must benefit from the outcomes of diplomatic negotiations. Rashan Danicaros for the local news.
And now for the international news. China and the Philippines battle over disputed territories in the South China Sea. Jala Reina may give us some update.
This South China Sea and the West Philippine Sea is one of the problems that the Philippines are facing right now. The disputes involve the islands, reefs, banks, and other features of the South China Sea, including the Spratly Island, the Scarborough Shoal, which is owned by the Philippines. The reef is claimed as territory by both China and the Philippines, but the inner lagoon has been blocked by China since 2012. Despite with the blocking of our own territories, China's are also illegally fishing from our own island. What are the claims and reactions that the Filipinos should address? Let's hear from this person. Will you allow China to continue claiming our territory, in which this will be the reason that in the future we will be no longer calling our place as our own?
Of course, as a Filipino, I will help as much as I can, just for us to really have the wealth and prosperity that our country should have.
What kind of help you would going to get in our country?
I will help through posting some important details about this issue for the other Filipinos who know about this and for us to be free from all danger.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So that's the latest update of the battle over disputed territories in the South China Sea and the West Philippine Sea. This is Reina May J. Jala for the International News.
For the national news, PH, China dispute over the West Philippine Sea. History to Lorraine Jane, report.
China has claimed maritime zones surrounding this feature get greater than 12 million, from which it has sought to exclude the Philippines. Notwithstanding the encroachment of this zone on the Philippines Exclusive Economic Zone or on international waters within the 9-dash line, Philippines objected strongly to China claims during various bilateral consultations. It also took the matter to United Nations Secretary General. China has prevented the Philippines from carrying out oil and gas development projects and from fishing in the disputed waters. The Philippines is a key player in the South China Sea territorial dispute, which are getting sharper due to China's growing assertiveness and the climate state's competition over resources. Rather than appealing to international law as a bulwark against China claims, President Rodrigo Duterte has instead pursued a more pragmatic approach that confronting China in the hope of reaping economic benefits. So now, I will be asking one person about how he or she feels or what can he or she say about this issue. Can I know your name, ma'am? Yes, of course. What can you say about this issue? China claimed the West Philippine Sea. The Philippine goal is to prevent China from winning without fighting. So for me, I can say that we should avoid being too aggressive, too hard-headed, or confrontational in dealing with disputes.
Philippine won its territorial claim over the WCS ruling by the United Nations Arbitral Court, which rejected China's historical claim over the most parts of the South China Sea.
In your opinion, how do they know that West Philippine Sea belongs to Philippines?
According to my research that aside from 17th century maps, we know that the Philippine Sea belongs to the Philippines because international say so even before the landmark victory of the Philippines versus China case at the Permanent Court of Arbitration in 2016.
Thank you, Ma. So, this is Lorraine Jane L. Distrito for the National News.
Philippines dispute China's maritime expansion of South China Sea. Iran Anika Jelena, go ahead.
Back in August 28, 2019, former President Mr. Rodrigo Duterte geared up for a face-off with China. Ahead of his fifth visit to China, he is facing pressure from back home to raise the problem of Beijing's military expansion in the South China Sea. Duterte already threatened to cancel the trip if he couldn't discuss the contested waters. The Philippines, like other regions, rejects China's claim to the area. China wants control over major parts of the entire sea, critical shipping route rich in fish and oil and gas reserves. In recent years, Beijing has stepped up naval patrols and even constructed man-made islands there. In 2016, an international tribunal in The Hague ruled that China was in the wrong. China ignored the ruling. In the Philippines, critics have pounced on Duterte for supposedly turning a blind eye to China's development in return for trade. But when a Chinese vessel rammed a fishing boat in June, leaving 22 Filipino fishermen dead, Duterte could not ignore the public outrage any longer. Let us ask for someone's opinion in the area. Good afternoon, ma'am. What's your name?
Good afternoon, I am Isabel.
Okay, ma'am, let me ask you. In your opinion, do you think the issue about the West Philippine Sea, a conflict between Philippines and China right now, worth it to start a war? Why?
My answer for that question would be no, because there are other solutions rather than starting a war between both countries where millions of innocent lives would not be involved. Then I also heard from our former president, Mr. Rodrigo Duterte, that this issue can be negotiated diplomatically and not by force.
Thank you so much for your cooperation, ma'am.
Welcome.
This is Iran Anika Jelena reporting.
Philippines accuses Chinese Coast Guard of firing water cannon at its boat in South China Sea. Kulina Janice, report!
Thank you, Therese. Beijing has hit back after Philippines accused Chinese Coast Guard of blocking its boats in the South China Sea and firing water cannon at them. China disputes the claims, saying it is the Manila that is guilty of trespassing after its vessels crossed into Chinese waters without permission. I hope you're concerned, citizen, that we can ask for some details about the claims between the Philippines and China. Do you believe that Filipinos can be named as trespassers to the South China Sea even though we Filipinos are known as a good citizen in the country? Why?
No, ipalan ako nagtudjud ko that we Filipinos cannot be called trespassers of the sea nagiangkon sa China because we are commonly known as the good citizens of the Philippines, and to be called as trespassers isn't good because in the first place, Filipinos or the Philippines owns the sea and it is proved historically and also by law. So kitang mga Pilipino na ikatungod nga moangkon ang dapita nga gitawag nila South China Sea.
Thank you for sharing, Ms. Rizal. This is Chinese Kalina for the National News.
For the showbiz update, Philippine President slams China for the latest flare-up in the South China Sea. Kadibida lovely mate, chika na ha!
Thank you, Maria, for the showbiz update. The Philippine president has taken aim of China condemning bidding of the latest flare-up in the South China Sea. The incidents involved Chinese Coast Guard ships firing water cannon at Philippine boats. The comments came of the summit of Asian leaders of Chinese President Xi Jinping. We asked one citizen on her opinion on what Philippines claims about South China Sea, and he responded that the Philippines claims to sovereignty over the features known as Scarborough Shoal and the Cape are independent of its archipelagic status both legally and historically, because Scarborough Shoal is a feature which exists above high tide. It is capable of sovereign appropriation under international law. We also add a question on how does the Philippines feel about China, and he responded that recently the Philippines has been rapidly improving its relations and cooperation with China on various issues, developing a stronger and stable ties with the country, as well as successful code of conduct with China and the rest of Asia. Once again, this is Love, your showbiz update.
For the recap of today's hottest news, identifying the South China Sea and the West Philippine Sea. China and the Philippines battle over disputed territories in the South China Sea. PA, China dispute over the West Philippine Sea. Philippines dispute China's maritime expansion in South China Sea. Philippines accuses Chinese Coast Guard of firing water cannon at its boat in South China Sea. Philippine President slams China for latest flare-up in South China Sea. And that's the update of this day. I am Charles Jane Cabalida, saying a positive mindset brings positive things. And this is Marian Nieves, also saying positivity always wins. And you are watching The World Scope, the voice, the agent, the catalyst of Negros Oriental. Once again, good morning Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Good morning, City of the Gentle People. This is The World Scope, signing off.